Each day is different. You can wake up and have a plan of what you're going to do that day and walk outside, and that can pretty much change in an instant.
Yeah, it's definitely has its challenges, but I wouldn't change them. We love being outdoors and doing what we do, so I couldn't think of doing anything else now.
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. For many that grow up on the land, it's hard to let go of the deep connection to the great outdoors. After working as a builder and a personal trainer, Frank and Anne-Marie Vigilante found themselves heading to their South Coast farm every weekend to escape the big smoke. 2 days turned into 3, then 4, until finally they bit the bullet and made a tree change to become full-time farmers. The decision has resulted in a greater connection with their kids, and their pork has got the attention of some of Australia's best chefs. Well, Frank and Anne-Marie, you've got a small family and a small farm. What's it like having a family on a farm, working together and growing pigs?
Well, I kind of like it. It's all good having everybody together, and it does have its times when kids don't cooperate and we have our arguments. But lucky the farm's big enough that we can all pick a corner, and get away from each other enough. One feeds pigs, one does water. So there's plenty of room here.
Are there designated roles in the structure of what you're doing, or is it all everyone roll their sleeves up and just get into it?
I guess we all kind of work together in doing all the jobs. We kind of know an outline of what has to be done every day, and we just work together. The kids are at an age where they can take off and they'll collect eggs for us or feed pigs, and Frank and I will either fill up water or someone will be moving pigs. So we try and coordinate it all, so we still do work together as a team.
Why did you become pig farmers? Can you tell us how it all began?
That one's a bit. We don't actually know. We started off. We were living at my dad's farm, and we bought 30 chickens at the time, and we were going to start with that. And then one of the kids' dads at the school had a stud pig farm, so he had some pigs for sale. So we bought 2 gilts and 1 boar, and then obviously they joined, and then we ended up with 20 piglets and 2 pigs, and then we ended up selling some of them because they were getting bigger. So we had a friend of ours was a butcher, so I took some to him, and then he liked those, and then he said, "Oh, do you have any more?" So then we kept breeding, and then it just all grew from there, I suppose.
Anne-Marie, what's it been like starting from that point? And did you know how to grow pigs and farm pigs? What's that sort of first couple of years like?
Well, I guess it was definitely something new, but it wasn't completely strange to us. We both our families had farms as we were growing up. So my grandfather had a couple of pigs on his place, so we kind of had a general understanding of how pigs were and what they were like. But it's definitely something new to learn every day when you're pig farming. And there was challenges. They don't always respect a fence, and they flip their water troughs over all the time. So there's something to look out for every day. But we're slowly getting the hang of it and learning something new continually. So
You mentioned that you both grew up on farms. Were there things from your youth growing up on farms that you've taken into what you do now?
um, I guess so. I guess we both have an Italian background, so it was always salami making or making those kinds of small goods. And that was something that we really wanted to pursue in our farming here on the farm, and, making things the old fashioned way and home style, and knowing what was going into our food. So yeah, that was something.
Frank, you mentioned it sort of started with chickens and eggs before you got into pigs. What were you doing before that? Was farming always on the cards, or was there something before that?
Well, no, I was a builder in Sydney, and Anne-Marie was a personal trainer, And it was sort of, my dad always had the family farm. So from the age of 5, we were sort of down there every weekend. And he ran a fine wool merino operation. And so we used to go down there every weekend and look after the sheep. So it was always something that we were doing, but definitely wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing, because we had a good business in Sydney building. So I thought that's what I'd always be pursuing. But then sort of met Anne-Marie, and then they had the farm, and then we had the kids, and we ended up going to the farm every weekend with the kids. And then that sort of turned from a weekend to probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we used to throw the Monday in there, and then was getting to Thursdays, and then I thought we can't keep doing this, so we decided to make the call and pursue the other venture.
Having grown up on farms and having that rich experience, what's it like farming these days to your memories of being a kid? What's some of the challenges involved?
Oh, it was a lot more work than when I was a kid. I think we used to just ride motorbikes and do stuff like that. What my kids are doing now, I think. So, but there's definitely the challenges of the weather, and I never being a builder. You're sort of worried about the weather, but it was not as much as this. So we had the drought when we bought the farm. We had one good year, and then we went into drought. So and then we had the bushfires at Christmas time last year, which was a big one. But yeah, it's definitely has its challenges, but they're all good. I think I wouldn't change them. We love being outdoors and doing what we do, so I couldn't think of doing anything else now.
Drought affects so many different types of farming. What sort of impact does it have on growing pigs?
It's probably not too bad. Because you are supplementing, they have their pasture, but you are supplementing with grains and feed like that. So you ride the drought out. The price of feed gets more expensive, which that has a big effect. And definitely the pasture's a lot drier. But we sort of, with our grazing management, we sort of destocked the farm from cattle a lot earlier, and we knew we were only going to keep sort of chickens and pigs. So we sort of had plenty of land. We don't overstock, so we had plenty of land to go through the drought. Obviously, we didn't know it was going to last for as long as it did. But yeah, we sort of come out of it pretty good.
Your pigs are very, very popular with award-winning chefs across the country. Can you take us to the farm and what an average day is like on the farm for you guys growing these pigs?
So I guess each day is different. You can wake up and have a plan of what you're going to do that day, and walk outside, and that can pretty much change in an instant when you look out and go, "Oh, hang on a sec, something's got to be done before I can do the next step." But generally, we get up early in the morning. We milk our cows, and then we head out to feed the pigs and water the pigs. Obviously, we rotate our animals, so we always have them on fresh pasture and fresh pick. So it's constant work out there. And then we go out and collect eggs and process and pack eggs before feeding pigs again in the afternoon. And I guess one of the biggest things for us is just making sure that they are always on fresh pasture and they're always happy and comfortable in the environment they're in.
You have biodynamic practices and a holistic management system on the farm. What does that mean? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, well, biodynamics started probably even before we started farming, because we always used to either eat that way, like organic or biodynamic. And then actually we went to a seminar at Maloon Creek, just near Bungendore, and it was a biodynamic seminar, and I sort of got involved in that a little bit, and I liked the principles, so we brought those across. And then I didn't really get into the biodynamics until we went to the Demeter biodynamic, and it was Alex Podlinski from Melbourne, Victoria, and the way he spoke, everything just made sense. So we sort of, after that, we just brought those principles straight across because it was all about the soil. And if the soil's healthy, the plants are healthy, the animals are healthy, and it just all stems from there. And with the same with the grazing techniques of holistic management, like moving animals all the time to stop worm burdens and look after grass and not to overgraze. And it was sort of those systems and put in place, and we've actually managed to be chemical free, vet free on the farm. So by keeping the soil healthy, the animals are healthy, which you don't need medication or antibiotics or anything like that.
What are the challenges involved in farming in that method, and what is the impact on the eating quality of the pork at the end using those practices?
Well, I think it's more stress free for the animal, so the meat has to be. Well, you'd think it'd have to be better, and I think it's proven in the pork sort of thing. And being on the pasture and the diversity of what the animal's doing, I'd say has to show up in the quality of the pork.
Can you tell us about what sort of pigs you're growing there, and the life cycle of a pig from birth to the back door of the kitchen? What sort of time do they spend on the property? What's their life like?
Well, I guess our pigs are pretty relaxed. They're pretty easygoing, and luckily, when people come out and see them, they say, "Wow, these pigs are so relaxed." And that's our method. That's how we raise our animals here on the farm. And I guess the lifestyle of the pig is eat, sleep, and repeat. They're really relaxed. They're soaking up the sun. They've got mud baths that they cover themselves in mud when it's hot. We usually run them more in the forested areas of our property, so they've constantly got shade. They've got access to huts to keep them out of that weather. They're all insulated. And then I guess when we start with our furrowing and that kind of thing, we separate the sows. They run in with the boars, and then we separate the sows when we can see that they're ready to have piglets, and we give them their own area with their own hut, just to avoid other pigs coming into the huts, and then you can have complications like squashing pigs and piglets and that kind of thing. So we give them their own area. They'll stay in there for probably the first 8 weeks with their mother. After 8 weeks, we move them across to another cell where they'll go in with a few sows and their piglets until 12 weeks of weaning. We wean our pigs at 12 weeks of age. And the mothers will go back into the paddocks with the boars, and the piglets will go off to be grown out for, depending on the restaurants. For small goods, we grow them out quite large. And then for there's certain restaurants that want them out for 60, 70 kilos. So we grow them out to working with our chefs and what they want. And um, yeah, just working out with the chefs, really. That's one of our key things, just working directly with the chefs.
Is there any breeding techniques or feed changes that you've implemented over the years to get a certain sort of result with the pork, or are you leaving that to nature? Are you looking for some, a certain amount of fat in the pork, or can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, when we first started, we were sort of very heavy on the barley, and that was giving us a lot of fat coverage, and it was a oily fat, and that wasn't good for small goods. And so we have worked with the small good producers, and they've told us to different feed changes and everything. And then sort of that's one aspect. And then we changed. We had saddlebacks, pure saddlebacks to start with, and then we changed them and crossed with a Berkshire, and that gave us a really good salami pig. And then we use our pure Berkshires for the fresh produce, so your pork chops and straight to the restaurants. I think they're a really nice eating pig.
Anne-Marie, you mentioned that the pigs like to play up a bit and run amok a bit sometimes on the property. Do you have any funny stories of the pigs playing up?
Yeah, I guess we usually run electric strands when we've got our pigs. So you'll think that that fence is on, and then you'll see that the piglets are on the other side of that fence, and you'll think, oh, that's shorted out, that's not working. So you go and grab the fence, and you'll sure enough get zapped. Somehow the pigs don't get any kind of electric current, but you seem to get zapped quite a few times. And one of our sons touches the fences, and he just, I don't know why, he just does not get zapped. So I've had quite a few times out there where we get hit with the electric zap on that.
We've had a good story where we went out for dinner one night, and we're not far from, we're only about 2 kilometres from the McDonald's up the road, and we were coming home, and we're looking in the car park of McDonald's, and there's 10 little piglets running through the car park. And I said to Emery, I said, I think they're our piglets. I said, so I wasn't sure if we should stop and get them or just keep driving, because I wasn't sure how much trouble we were in, but we managed to get them in, and that was it's been a comedy like that ever since, I think.
Your pork is in some amazing restaurants at the moment, but do you remember who your first restaurant client was and how that happened?
Yeah, we used to supply, or we still do supply eggs out at Icebergs in Bondi, and at the time Monty was running the place down there, and he was taking our eggs, and I said to him, look, we've got fallen into pigs, and we've got some pigs. Would you like to try some of our pigs? And he said, yep, bring it down, sure. So he tried that, and then he rang me, and I think it was after a few hours he rang me, and he said, this stuff's amazing. He said, this is the best pork I've tried. And he was the one that put us in for the Delicious Produce Awards, and that's how we went on to win the Delicious Awards. And I guess from there we just had word of mouth, and chefs just kept trying it, and that's it. It just grew.
Chefs like Mike Eggert and Lennox Hasty, Ben Sinfield, they're all using your pork. What's the best dish you've eaten in a restaurant that's used your pork?
Oh, I think at the moment, because we're stuck on the farm most of the time, but I think one of the best ones is probably just I think he calls it a PorkStar from Ben, and it's just a T-bone, and he cooks it so good. And
It's, it,
yeah, I think simple and easy, but it's nice.
it's certainly not for one. It's a huge dish.
Yes, it is.
Definitely.
What do you love about what you do and the interaction that you have with the pigs on the farm?
Oh, I guess just waking up and having your office at your back door. So just being able to walk outside and work outside constantly is just, it's lovely. And the pigs, they really are a nice animal. We kind of get a little bit of attached to our breeding pigs, and they've all got their own personality, and they're pretty placid the way they're raised. They're very placid, and the kids go out there and they sit with them like as if they're dogs, and it's just yeah, it's just really beautiful just to work outside on the farm.
What you mentioned that you do get attached to them. Does that make it difficult sometimes when you're growing them for human consumption and one day they're going to leave the farm?
I guess, yeah, it's always, I mean, you always get attached to your animals. But at the end of the day, we're raising our pigs for our business and to produce pork. The kids have always said to me, Mum, why do these pigs have to leave the farm? And I guess one of the answers I had was that we're pretty lucky that our pigs do lead a happy life here on the farm, and they see sunlight and they're not locked up. So I guess that's reassuring for us. And just knowing that the chefs, we like to work with chefs that do use that head to tail approach in their cooking. So we know that every piece of that animal is being used, and it's being used in a really good way of how they cook it.
Do you eat your own product, and who's the cook in the house?
I'd say Frank's the cook. I cook, but Frank's a pretty good cook.
Oh, I don't know. I'd say it's the other way around, but
Is there a family signature pork dish that you can run through for us?
oh, I think Emery just does a good pork shoulder, like a roasted pork shoulder, and then you just pull it apart and with the salad, and it's that's probably our favourite, I'd say. Not sure on the ingredients. That's Emery's department there, but
Can you take us through that recipe, Anne Marie?
Yeah, look, I just it's really slow cooked. We just put it in the oven in the morning, leave it on until the evening, and we put pepper, paprika, rub it with oil, put a bit of love in it, and put it in the oven. And it just pull it apart, and the kids seem to love it, and slow cooked.
I know we sort of mentioned a bit earlier about the sort of feeding habits, but can you take us to the farm? What's it like in that region? What's so good about that area for growing pigs?
Um, well, I suppose that we get a good amount of, well, usually we get a good amount of rainfall here. This year's been really good. So we're always got green pastures most of the time, which the pigs enjoy. And I think that the climate's not overly hot, which is good for the pigs in the summertime. Probably a little bit cold in the winter, but then they've got their huts, so they all seem to huddle together. So I think probably that adds flavour into the meat as well. But probably I'd say that the cooler summers is better for us having them outside.
Is there a food experience you've had courtesy of growing pigs that you never thought you'd have?
Look, we've had some pretty amazing chefs come out to the farm, and we've worked a lot with PorkStars and Kylie from PorkStars. We've worked with Straight to the Source as well, Lucy and Tanya there. So we've been really blessed to have so many chefs come out here and just be involved in what we do, and come out to the paddock and see the pigs and see how we raise them, and then bring that into the kitchen and cook, and they match wines to it, and it's just, I guess that's been a real up for us, just having that experience where the chefs come out and enjoy the farm with us.
Being a small company and with sort of mass produce food in our food system in Australia, what's some of the challenges for you guys to turn a profit with what you do and remain pure to this specialized product that you have?
Yeah, well, it is hard to compete with the bigger companies, but we're sort of offering a completely different product where the 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 chef nearly knows the pig that you're giving them, sort of thing. So it's a unique experience. They know where it's coming from. The sort of chef is selling the producer at the same time as the pig. So I think we're a little bit more expensive in the way we farm, but then we think the quality's there and the chefs can see that. So sort of it's only a family run farm, so we can keep the costs down in that department. But yeah, I think it seems to be working, and just being that little bit more unique in our product.
You mentioned that you've had some pretty amazing chefs on the farm. What sort of impact do you think that's had on their perception of what you do, having them on the farm? What's the conversations you've had with them after that sort of experience you've given them?
Well, I guess one of the things they see when they come out here is that, there's a lot of work that goes into raising animals the way we raise them. We're constantly moving fences, we're constantly moving animals, we're always filling up waters. That seems to be the most favourite thing, to flip water troughs over and wallow in it. So I guess just having them out on the farm, and them seeing what we do and how we do it, um, I think it creates that understanding with the chefs, and they can see why we're a little bit more expensive, with the way we raise them. And being in free range, there can always be losses with the sows. Not all the time, but in the winter time they can roll over and squash piglets, and we're slowly getting on top of that, and trying to keep that at a minimum. But that there is always challenges with farming free range, I guess.
The best food experiences always create such fond memories. And you mentioned both of you have Italian heritage, and you made charcuterie and all sorts of stuff as kids with family members. Can you take us back to growing up with your families? Do you have any stories you can share where food was at the centre of that?
Oh, I think every experience, the food was the centre of them. But um, even the Sundays, weekends used to be all about the food and get-togethers. And I remember every Sunday we used to make pasta from like fresh pasta, and then you'd smell the sauce cooking and everything. And we'd have our family traditions in June. We'd kill our pigs, and um, everyone would get together. There'd be, 15, 20 people, and we'd all be cutting up and packing salami skins and salting and getting ready. So it was really good. It would bring everybody together, and it would always be over food and wine. So it was a very good experience.
Anne-Marie, do you have any memories you can tell us about?
Yeah, I guess same kind of thing. Always growing up around food. Pasta was a key thing of having an Italian background, and seeing salamis hanging in those winter months, and just the stories that your grandparents would tell you on how they would do it, and we hope, like, we try and put that into what we do today, and hopefully that our kids will share that same tradition and enjoyment out of what we do.
You mentioned earlier about the droughts and the impact and the bushfires that we had earlier in the year, and obviously we've had a pandemic during this time as well. What sort of impact has sort of the last couple of years had on what you do, and has it changed some of the things that you do moving forward as farmers?
I guess there was challenges in we got evacuated a couple of times during the bushfires, so it was a pretty stressful few months. But we moved our pigs and we tried to keep them as protected as we could, and that was something that we just had to get over. And with the pandemic, a lot of the restaurants closed, so we had to keep quite a few pigs on farm for a lot longer than what we would have wanted to. But lucky enough, those restaurants have seemed to be opening up and they're just taking bigger pigs. So we've been lucky in that respect. But yeah, I guess, that, like I said, there's always a challenge, and we just try to figure it out as we go. We usually sell most of our male pigs off as suckling pigs. And due to the pandemic, we didn't have as many restaurants that were taking them, so we had to grow out a few males and that kind of thing. So that was something new for us, but we got through it, and we're continuing on. And lucky enough, the restaurants have reopened, and we can start all that up again. So
Out of Just add to that, out of growing the boars out for longer, we ended up making a boar salami because we had all these pigs we didn't know what to do, and that seems to be selling really good.
yeah.
Wow.
Everyone seems to love it. So
What's the challenges in making a salami? Can you take us through that process? Because it's you don't know until the end result, till you get the chance to eat it.
yes, well, see, I work with two salami producers. So we've got Pino's Dolce Vita and De Parma Salumi, and they make all our small goods for us. And I went to Michael at Pino's and I said, "We've got all these boars. Do you think we can make something good out of it?" And he said, "Well, give it a go." So we ended up making a spicy boar salami, and he sort of gave us some recipes, and we were saying, "Yeah, that can work, and this can work," and it ended up coming really good. So it's something we're going to stick with in the future. So it's been pretty good.
Do you see more sort of value add products rather than just producing meat that will go to market? Do you see this sort of value add area more and more a part of the business moving forward?
Yeah, I really like the charcuterie and making the small good side of things, and I think we've actually, because of that pandemic, a lot of stuff's gone into retail packaging. So we're doing more cacciatories in the retail shops and everything, and that it seems to be working well. So we'll probably stay with both, with a probably a heavier focus on the charcuterie.
You both gradually decided to make a tree change. It almost was forced upon you as more days were spent on the farm and less in the city. What's something that brings real joy to you with what you do?
Oh, I guess just being able to work together has been really nice, and having the kids involved in it. The kids absolutely love it. Like any kids, they have their moments. They don't always want to come out and move pigs and feed pigs, but they really enjoy it. And we've got, our kids get out there, Mum, the pigs are having piglets, and they'll go outside with the torch and sit at the back of the huts until they've seen every pig being delivered and make sure that it all goes to plan. So I guess just having that family time and just really working together. So it's been really nice.
Oh, I'm the same. Yeah, I just love being outdoors and with the kids and motorbikes, and we've been having a great sort of 5-6 years down here.
Well, it's warming up now and we're heading towards summer, and we're all hoping we don't see bushfires again. What are you hoping for in the next year or two? What will we see from Talucca Park?
Well, I think we'll probably the pigs will be growing steadily. We'll put more pigs on because the demand's there, and we'd like to be able to start processing on farm. And if we could process and cut here on the farm, that way we know the whole supply chain of what we're doing. And then talking with Pinos and De Palma, they're talking about maybe if we can build a salumi room down here and get started into that way. So hopefully, I don't know, big plans, but we'll see if we can pull it off or not.
Are there challenges involved in being able to have an abattoir on the property as well?
Yeah, I think very big challenges. we're I've heard they're doing some micro abattoirs in trailers, and they've been approved. There's one in Dubbo. I think Extraordinary Pork's doing that. So we've spoken to him, and he's going to give us a hand through it, sort of thing. So hopefully we can get there. I'm not sure what challenges we'll have with council, but we'll see them when they come, I suppose.
Well, you're producing an extraordinary pork that a lot of chefs really love. What do you guys think is the best way to enjoy the Talucca Park pork?
Oh, with a nice glass of wine, I'd say that's probably the best way. Anything that if you get into Ben and Tanya's restaurant there in the cannery, I think a nice pork stecker there is probably the best with a glass of wine, and it goes really good.
Well, Frank and Anne-Marie, we've loved having you on the Crackling. Look forward to seeing what happens with the on-site abattoir and also the salumi room. That sounds incredible. Good luck with that. Please keep in touch and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.